The Monday, August 8th, 2022 regular meeting of the Paris City Council is hereby called to order at 5:30 p.m. For the purpose of the meeting, there is a quorum of the council present. Item number 2 is the invocation, will be led by Mr. Gene Anderson, and the Pledge of Allegiance, item number 3, will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Hughes. Please rise.
May we pray? Heavenly Father, we're so grateful that we live in this great country, and we just pray, Father, your blessings upon our land, that you would give our leaders from the federal down to the local level, Father, your wisdom and understanding that they might make wise decisions. And Father, we pray that we would do all that we do that in a way that would be pleasing in your sight. So help our council tonight as they conduct the business and guide and direct them, for ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4 is the recognition of Maisie Smith's accomplishment in the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program with the Paris Public Library. The City Council and City staff wish to recognize 5-year-old Maisie Kate Smith tonight. Maisie Kate is the first child to complete reading 1,000 books in the Paris Public Library's 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program. Maisie was supported by her parents, grandparents, and the children's librarian, Tracy Clark. Maisie Kate Smith, if you and your family will meet me in front, I'm going to present to you a book titled Madeline in Paris on behalf of the Paris City Council and city staff. Would the rest of our family like to come up?
Tracy, over here.
Yes, please. And Tracy, if you'd like to come up too, may I shake your hand and present this book to you? I am so proud of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Close up, there we go. Cheese. One more.
The thing I miss most about teaching kindergarten is reading books to children. Item 4B is the Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city council members, or employees, as well as individual personal appeals, are not appropriate for Citizens Forum. If necessary, the City Council may convene into executive session under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code regarding any item on this agenda. The public forum is now open. If there is anyone who wishes to address the council, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Dukes. I reside at 116 West Kaufman Street. The reason I'm here is that I would like to request that the City Council consider an exception to the water billing rates. Currently, there are 2 exceptions that I'm aware of. One of them is separate meters for swimming pools do not have sewer charges attached to them. And 13 and 13R sprinkler systems, which have 4-inch and 2-inch taps on the water line, are not charged any monthly fees for water or sewer, since the anticipation is that there will be no water going through those. I currently serve as the chairman of the HPC for the city of Paris, and so I'm keenly aware of the fact that renovation and restoration of the historic buildings in the historic district is of economic importance to the council and to the city and to the state. If you look at that handout that you got, that first picture is my building when I bought it at the end of 2014. The next picture is what it looks like today, the front of the building. The next picture is what it looked like on the side when I bought it. The next picture is what it looks like today. The next page is one of the pages from a study done by the Texas Historic Commission about the impact of historic restoration. It's critically important economically for the city. When I started this project, the city officials, Sean Napier, Joey Sleeper, John Godwin, Carla Easton, were all very helpful in going through the process and trying to assist me and other building owners make economic sense of the renovations that we were doing. To that end, at the time, what I was told is that I could install a 13D sprinkler system, which basically works off the domestic water supply of the residents. The only water going through that meter is for the residents. The issue is that in order to have the hydronic capability, if that system ever were to go off, required a 1-inch meter. I was told at the time that I would only be charged for a 3/4 inch meter. That's what I was charged for the installation, but they put a 1-inch meter in because that was what was required if that system ever went off. One of these pages, the next page, this one, shows the different.
Mr. Dukes, I'll give you a few seconds to wrap things
Okay.
up, but your 2 minutes are up.
Okay, this is the critical page here. This page basically shows the difference in the basic rate between a 3/4 inch meter and a 1-inch meter. As a result of having a 1-inch meter, my monthly water bill is roughly $123.50 more because it's a 1-inch meter, which the city required me to have the fire sprinkler system. There's never going to be 1,000 cubic feet of water going through that thing unless that sprinkler system goes off. I am not the only individual who has this situation, and if you want to encourage development of the downtown historic buildings and even the residential buildings, if you're going to have a 1-inch meter to be able to have those sprinkler systems function properly, if they ever need to go off, then you need to have some mechanism where you're not charging someone the rates for a 1-inch meter, which are exorbitant compared to a 3/4.
Thank you, Mr. Dukes. Mr. Path, can you direct Mr. Dukes to who he might speak with on this? Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hello, my name is Kit Lindsay. I reside at 130 First Street Southwest, number 26. I am the neighbor of Chris Dukes, who just spoke. Basically, to kind of summarize what he's said, both of us in the installation of our water systems were told that despite the use of a 1-inch line for our meters, we would be required, they would only charge us for a 3/4 inch line. Simply, the city told us that's what was going to happen, and it has not. That's basically it. So
you.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that it does affect more than one person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Wilson? We're so polite.
Hi, I'm Jenny Wilson. I'm the Executive Director of the United Way of Lamar County. We're at 2340 Lamar Avenue. And I'm here this evening to invite you to a meeting that we're having on Friday. I'm not sure if you're aware of the effect, the economic impact that payday lending and car title loans have on the people in our community, especially those living in poverty. We're having a special meeting on Friday at noon. Lunch will be served. It's at Lewis Hall behind PRMC. And we've invited two very special groups to give us more information on how our city might be able to pass an ordinance to regulate payday lenders and car title loans. One of those groups is Texas Appleseed. They are a nonprofit group out of Austin that has helped 46 towns in Texas pass ordinances against payday lending and car title loans. The other group is out of Tyler, and their name is the East Texas Human Needs Coalition, and they actually just received a grant to have an economic impact study in Tyler on the impact of these predatory lenders, and they discovered that it was taking $24 million out of the local economy. So this meeting is for people in the community, but namely you, the ones that could possibly pass a city ordinance, to come and learn and ask questions and find out exactly what other cities and towns have done. Mr. Darrell Bowles with City Square was here earlier. He went out to the Reno City Council and invited them as well. This all came out of a poverty task force that we started this spring, and we had between 40 and 50 community members meeting to talk about poverty, and this was the number one issue. They see firsthand people who are dealing with those in public housing or some of our school counselors, certainly those of us in the nonprofit world, see every day that people are getting stuck in this predatory lending. They are borrowing hundreds, if not thousands of dollars that they cannot possibly repay. In fact, they're not really paying back the loan, they're paying for time, more time. And so it's just having an unbelievable impact on those living in poverty. So again, we want to invite you to this very special meeting. It is noon this Friday at Lewis Hall. We will have lunch. So please, if you can, come and learn and ask questions and see if this is something that would be possible for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Next.
Hello, my name is Lucia Bunch. I am co-artistic director for Paris Community Theater, and I have our board president with me, Ms. Laura Hutchings. We just wanted to let you all know that the doors are open. Paris Community Theater is about to start its 2022-23 season on Thursday, August 11th. We have flyers here for any of you or anyone out there that would like to take one and see the wonderful shows that we have planned for this next year. COVID was very, very hard on all of us, especially those of us who try to have people come and see what we have worked on, our craft. And when you cannot put people in seats, it's really, really hard. So we're working the best we can to let everyone know that we are so encouraged about this new season, and we want everyone to come out. We open with what's called Marvelous Wonderettes. 4 lovely young ladies are going to sing us from the 50s and the 60s. That's this week. In October, we're doing a farce, Drop Dead. Then we move to Songs of the Season. That will be in December. Plaza Follies in Love comes up in February. Sherlock Holmes and the Adventure of the Suicide Club is in March. We have all opportunities for individual tickets, for senior tickets, for season tickets, for general admission, or seniors season tickets. So anybody that's here would like to take a brochure as you leave, we welcome you to do that. And I have one more little addition that Ms. Hutchins is going to add.
I'm Laura Hutchings. I am the president of PCT Board of Directors, and we are so excited to have our first full season post-COVID. So thank you for letting us speak. Another huge accomplishment is that we are rebooting the very treasured children's theater program here in Paris. I have a feeling that all of you know a little drama king or little drama queen. We ask that you steer them our way because we are so excited to restart this program. And in fact, the registration just went live online this afternoon at pctonstage.com. And if you have some grown-up drama kings and queens, send them our way. We were starting auditions next week for the next show. So please, I feel like our building on the plaza and this group is one of Paris's treasures in the entertainment business. So we appreciate your support and ask you to come our way.
Thank you, Ms. Bunch and Ms. Hutchins. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one, the public forum is now closed. Next item is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are approved by a single action of the council, with such approval applicable to all items appearing on the consent agenda. A council member may request any item to be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item. Does any member wish to remove an item from the agenda for discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem City Council, we need to pull the items for 6D, the planning and zoning minutes for June the 5th or June the 6th. We need to send those back to planning and zoning for some corrections. So
All
we
right.
could exclude that, I would appreciate it.
All right. We will remove item 6D. The minutes from the Planning and Zoning Commission have some corrections to make. Anything else?
Motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 6D.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Regular agenda item number 11. Discuss, consider, and act on a resolution approving an agreement regarding freeze of the fire pension fund and authorizing the mayor to execute same on behalf of the city, making other findings and provisions related to the subject, and providing an effective date. Mr. Path, can I just say a minute before you begin your presentation that in the time I've been on the council, I think this is the first or second most important action that I've participated in. This is a groundbreaking move by the city of Paris. Staff, anyone else that we've worked with, attorneys, Texas Municipal League, TMRS, know of no case where this has been done in another city. It is a tremendous benefit to our fire department, and they are 100% behind it. I can't wait to hear the presentation, please.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Yes, I would agree. This is a very important day for the City of Paris, one that future generations may not realize how important it is, but we know today that this decision today, if approved, will have massive positive impacts for our residents going forward, the taxpayers as well as our fire employees going forward. So, yes, this has been a massive effort by many individuals, from our fire department employees, from Chief McMonigal and Chief Rast, who are present here tonight, and then we have Chief Cruz as well with us tonight. Their legal counsel as Board of Trustees, their board actuary. We have Chris Settle tonight for our legal counsel for the bonding, financial advisors, and of course city staff and TMRS. And so, but as you recall, back on June 13th, you heard a presentation regarding the freezing of the Paris Firefighter Relief and Retirement Fund. I call it the pension for short. While simultaneously transitioning those employees over to the Texas Municipal Retirement System. As you recall, we have two systems, TMRS and a fire pension. TMRS is doing extremely well. It's a statewide organization. It's very well funded. The fire pension is, unfortunately, the least funded fire pension in the state of Texas. We're not far below the next person above us, but still, we have the dubious honor of being the lowest funded in the state of Texas. Nothing that our staff have done. It's just this is how these small pensions work. Unfortunately, it's a lot of commitment, and it takes too much revenue to keep it going. And so that's why a lot of these small pensions, individual city pensions, fail across the country. With this, following the presentation you heard on June 13th, we worked with the Fire Board of Trustees as well as our team, and we've drafted documents for you tonight. There are 3 agenda items tonight, 11, 12, and 13. This is a series of approvals in order to make this thing go. There will be a 4th item on August 22nd, and I'll talk about that in a second here. But to this point here, the Board of Trustees worked with their legal counsel as well as our legal counsel. They drafted amendments to their current pension plan. Those were approved 45-0 by the firefighters, which I think is outstanding. I think there's a lot of good positive trust momentum going on between all parties with this project here. With this, we have in front of you 2 resolutions and an ordinance. One resolution tonight will be to approve an agreement between the City of Paris and Board of Trustees. In order for us to issue a pension, both parties have to agree to that. We can't just give them money without them accepting it. By state statute, we have to go into an agreement saying we will take out a pension to fund the pension, a bond fund the pension. They will receive it and then manage it going forward. That agreement is in front of you tonight. There is another agreement via resolution. This one's not required by state statute, but in order for us to effectively freeze a pension and transition the employees to TMRS, we have to have some terms and conditions in agreement that satisfy both parties. One of them being, as an example, a future Board of Trustees won't vote to increase the pay benefit. If they vote to increase the pay benefit, then the pension today, the bond today, won't cover that. And so both parties are agreeing to accept this and move forward together. We'll be freezing the pension. And the third one tonight is an ordinance for the pension bond, again required by state statute. In order to issue a bond, you have to do it by ordinance. The 4th item will be on the August 22nd meeting. This will be an ordinance to bring the employees into TMRS. Under state statute, the law requires that before we can add a group that was previously excluded from the TMRS, we have to approve an ordinance that removes the exclusion, thus allowing them into TMRS. So that'll be August 22nd. With this, working with the Board of Trustees actuarial firm, they've estimated we need a $12.15 million bond to fund the pension. We worked with Samco Financial Advisors as well as our legal counsel. Today, we have priced that out. The proposed fiscal year 22-23 budget incorporates a $1,074,875 first amortization scheduled payment, and the pricing came out just almost on the dot, and so we are good with that number there. We have some good legal counsel and financial advisors who do good work to forecast these things. So the proposed budget, which I'll discuss tonight, incorporates that payment there. The nice thing here is that this new payment, along with the outstanding obligations for the M&O, will be supported by the city's proposed new tax rate, which is less than the current tax rate. We have an existing bond that's going off the books, so we're going to be replacing that with this. So the timing works out very well to get this thing done this year. So with this, we do have Chris Settle with us tonight. Chris, is there anything you need to discuss tonight with the council?
I can just answer any questions.
Yeah, come on up here. And so the first item tonight, the first item on the agenda tonight is a resolution for the freezing the pension. This is the agreement between the city and the Board of Trustees, I believe, right?
Yes.
And then the next item will be to a resolution for an agreement for the bond, for taking the bond for both parties, and the third will be the ordinance for adopting the bond. So, any questions or about this project?
I think your background included in our packet was extremely thorough. It took longer to read than this meeting will last probably, but it was
Good.
it was very helpful.
Chris, you want to say anything real quick?
I just appreciate being able to work on this deal with the city. And after you approve this ordinance, I'm going to get everything signed and then send everything down to the Attorney General's office. And then they go through their review process, and then I'll work with them to get their approval. And then we'll be able to close in, I guess, about a month. September 8th is when the funds will be received. So if you have any questions, you can let me know.
No questions, but, I'd just like to reiterate the mayor's sentiments that this is a big deal, and it happened pretty fast. I think we all appreciate the hard work that y'all put in on this, because it did happen fast. And, being a retiree myself, I appreciate a good pension. And I know that it has a value as far as, and I know you said younger people, generations later, might not appreciate this, but I think they will, because a good retirement, a good pension plan is a good draw for employees. So that's just another piece of the puzzle to drawing, firemen, policemen, or whatever, to Paris, Texas. So I think it's a major win.
Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Chris. If there's no more discussion, I'll hear a motion to act on this resolution freezing the fire pension fund.
Make a motion to approve the resolution agreement and ordinance to authorize the freezing of the Paris Firefighter Relief and Retirement Fund while simultaneously using a pension bond to fund the program and transfer employees to TMRS.
Thank you.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 12, discuss, consider, and act on a resolution approving an agreement with the Paris Firefighters Relief and Retirement Fund pertaining to the City of Paris, Texas General Obligation Pension Funds, Taxable Series 2022, and providing an effective date. Any additional discussion? I'll hear a motion.
Make the motion that we approve item 12 as written.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 13, consider all matters incident and related to the issuance and sale of City of Paris, Texas General Obligation Pension Bonds, Taxable Series 2022, including the adoption of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of such bonds and approving all other matters incident thereto. Any additional discussion? I'll hear a motion.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
A motion and a second is received. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Path, and congratulations, chiefs. Item number 14, receive an update of the Paris Economic Development Corporation's plan of work. PEDC Executive Director will give us the update, and after the update, if there's no action, there'll be no action to be taken. Welcome, Ms. Hammond.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Thanks for having me this evening. I'm here to give an update on our plan of work. As background, you'll recall last year we had a 2-year plan of work that we approved. All right, bear with me. Here we go. As a background, there were a few key notions that led that plan of work. So one, we acknowledge that economic development has changed. You can no longer focus solely on attraction and recruitment if you want to be successful. 2, we needed to prioritize business retention and expansion efforts. And that is 3, primarily because most new net jobs come from your existing employers as well as new startups. So those were kind of the guiding principles around this plan of work. We identified that there would be 7 strategic initiatives. So the first 4 are basic core activities of economic development organizations. So fostering the retention and growth of jobs, attracting new employers in industry. Number 3, cultivating an entrepreneurial ecosystem. 4, supporting workforce development. And so I guess if I had to categorize the last 3, they're more future-oriented. So managing and expanding the community's land and building assets. 6, encouraging a unified vision for Paris-Lamar County and the PEDC. And then 7, exploring internal and external funding mechanisms. So as you know, we work on this plan of work day to day, year round. But going into it, we acknowledged that we needed to set some priorities, give some goals, and set some timelines so we could look back and measure how we've done. And so that's what I intend to do today, is kind of talk to you about where we are today from a year ago. So that timeline would be about July 1 of last year to today. So number 1, we talked about fostering the retention and growth of jobs. We said that we wanted to launch a formal survey in partnership with the Paris Junior College, and we wanted to survey 20 employers. Because of COVID and some of the restrictions on some of our primary employers as relates to on-site visits, we were delayed in launching that program, but we did launch in January of this year. So to date, we've surveyed 10 employers, which I think is really good. We wanted to hit 20 by this time, but because of that delay, we're halfway there. Number 2, we also said that we would host 10 dinners or lunches and establish board member liaisons to really nurture those relationships and grow them with our existing plant managers and executives. To date, we've had 9 dinners or lunches. We also talked about the need to call on corporate headquarters of some of our major primary employers. We've done that. We've called on Turner Industries. In fact, Chairman Bray and I drove down to Baton Rouge and visited with Turner. Another group of board members went out with me, and we visited with executives from Campbell Soup, Skinner, Kimberly-Clark, Potters. And then, of course, we have an incentive review, and that committee has developed some internal working guidelines. For Initiative 2, attract new employers and industry, we said we would have a functional new website as a metric by this time. We don't. One of the reasons we've delayed that is due to the branding, and so we have completed the RFP process. We'll be recommending a firm to the board next month. So that process will take 4 to 6 months. We are anxious to have a new website, but the brand, North Star actually recommended that we wait till we're at least midway through the branding before we started that process. We also said we'd work to identify and market assets related to Cox Field. You all know that there have been some restructuring of not only the board, but Paul Strahan is the new airport manager. So that's been a little slower to understand how we can work with the airport. But we have met. I've met with Paul, I've attended some of the advisory meetings, and so look forward to attending more and working closely with staff and council to figure out how we can market opportunities at the airport. Just to give you a sense of how many leads we've had 71 leads primarily from the governor's office over the last year. We were eligible to submit on 33 of those leads. We've talked about this before. We generally get eliminated due to not having an available building that meets our requirements. 2 other primary reasons are not having access to an interstate or not being close enough to an international airport. Number 3, cultivating an entrepreneurial ecosystem. We really wanted to set a goal of having a working understanding of the resources here in Lamar County. Had a lot of conversations with SBDC, working very closely with them. I'll be honest, still trying to understand the density of, when we talk about entrepreneurship and startups, we're talking about primary employers. So think about Bodyguard, smaller warehouse distribution. And so there seems to be density when it comes to retailers and service firms, but not, at least from the information I have today, there's not a ton of startups that kind of fit that primary employer base. But we are continuing to look at that and really trying to see where we can fill in, what gaps are there and how we can fill that void. So, mentioned earlier, most new net jobs come from your existing employers and startups. And so we really need to figure out what the landscape is here and how we can really work to help startups that will create jobs. Having said that, we visited with 3 startups this year: microbrewery, a warehouse distribution, and a small manufacturer. Number 4, supporting workforce development. We said we were going to secure a grant through Workforce Solutions. We did. That grant supported the purchase of 5 welding machines. The trailer industry is growing, so it made a lot of sense to utilize the grant funds. Those welding machines are at Paris Junior College. We also said we wanted to support 2 initiatives. We did. We convened a community advisory board in partnership with RDP. You'll recall when we talked about Delco's announcement in December, part of their financing was through new market tax credits, and so RDP was one of those CDEs that funded that. They asked us to convene a group of local leaders to work on some workforce development program that benefits all of the citizens of Lamar County. So we have convened that group and we are working on that. I think Dr. England's on that. We have all of the school superintendents and their CT instructors are on that to start. We also worked with Paul Allen and the Chamber on co-sponsoring a career day at North Lamar. Number 5, expanding and managing our land and building assets. We said we wanted to acquire land. We did. We purchased 177 acres just north of Kimberly-Clark on the west side of the Gene Stallings Business Park. That was an incredible, that was just a great buy and acquisition. So we're really thrilled about how we can market that site. And I will note here that we worked with the city, just kind of backing up. The city, under Mayor Clifford, asked us to refinance our debt through the city to have a win-win between that gave us a lower interest rate and it gave you all a higher interest rate. And so to Grayson's credit, and of course Gene Anderson worked really hard on that, as did Stephanie, we were able to get additional funds in that loan to secure this land. So we could have done it on our own, but it would have been at a higher interest rate. So this really helped us to preserve more funds to apply towards our mission of job creation. So really, really grateful for that partnership. We also worked on site readiness. So today, all of our properties have environmentals. They have all been rezoned to either light or heavy industrial, with the exception of the newly acquired land. 6, encouraging a unified vision for Paris. We were hoping by this time this year we'd be unveiling a new brand. As you all know, it took a little longer for that to get legs, but to working with my colleagues Grayson and Paul, I think we got that launched late last year, and so that's been a really good project. You all know that in the next 2 weeks we will have that initial finding of the surveys, the in-person visits. I believe we had over 600 surveys. Is that right, Grayson, Paul? 600? So the survey is still open, even though it technically closed. So good response on that. And then we also launched a social media plan. Our Facebook posts have reached over 40,000 people. We have had 400 new likes between July 2021 and to date. That's pretty impressive. Me being here 2 years, what I found is that the community cares. They're invested in economic development. They want to know what's going on. So it's been really interesting to see people engaging on social media. So we will continue that. And then last but not least on this initiative, we launched our first newsletter. So we'll probably be doing that quarterly. Hopefully you all found that information valuable. We're always open to feedback. And last but not least, we said we'd explore internal and external funding. When we set the priorities for this initiative, we set that we'd find one opportunity. We actually found 3. So that was really proud of that. So we applied for a grant in March of this year. That grant was to support infrastructure at the Northwest Industrial Park. 2, obviously, I've talked about the partnership with the city and the loan. But 3rd, again, to Grayson's credit, his support of extending utilities on the southwest side of the loop. Appreciate the relationship, partnership, and the support of economic development. And so that was critical. Anytime a company is looking, it's great to have the land, but if you don't have infrastructure and you're competing with another site that does, you're quickly moved to the bottom of the list. So that was really important. And then as a jobs organization for Lamar County, I wanted to end with jobs. And so from July 1 of last year to date, our efforts had supported 400 new jobs in Lamar County, 400 families, and 38 jobs truly retained that were at risk of leaving. So I think I've said this a number of times, but that's a really good number for any community, let alone a community this size. And so we're really proud of the work. I have an awesome board. We have, I think, 5 working committees. So a lot of this, a lot of the work we do is in committees. So land committee, marketing. We're really grateful for the board I have today, and we're really grateful for the partnership we have with you all. So as you can see, you all were part of many of these results that we've had. So hopefully you share in these great results. So
We're all on the same team.
absolutely we are. Team Paris.
Thank you, Ms. Hammond. That's excellent. I've never seen a more transparent, communicative board and executive director in any city I've lived in. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
No, I had some, but as you went on through the presentation.
All right.
Well, you know where to find me. So
Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you.
Item number 15, discuss and act on an ordinance ordering a citywide special election for the city of Paris to be held on November 8th, 2022, to consider propositions calling for amendments to the city charter. Ms. Ellis, you have a presentation?
Yes, short and sweet. On January the 24th, you all made changes to the proposed amendments. We've since made those changes and sent them to the Spanish translator. We have that information back. We've got a publisher on go, waiting to have the election called. Once that's done, once the election is called, we will send a booklet out to, it's approximately 14,000 registered voters explaining the changes. It will be in English and Spanish. We have to do that 30 days in advance of the November 8th election. So we're asking you all to call the election tonight.
All right. Any questions or discussion? I think it's going to be a much more concise and up-to-date charter with these, if these changes are approved by the voters. Any discussion? I'll hear a motion.
Make the motion that we approve the ordinance offering a citywide special election for the city of Paris to be held on November the 8th, 2022, to consider propositions calling for amendments to the city charter.
Thank you. A second?
A second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 16, discuss and act on a resolution approving a contract with the county elections administrator for the special charter election for November 8th, 2022. Ms. Ellis?
Okay, the city has been contracting with the county elections administrator since 2009. This is a standard contract to perform election services, and we're asking you to approve the contract tonight.
Thank you. And I believe that cost is about $12,000?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
All right. Any discussion? I'll hear a motion.
Make a motion to resolution contracting with the county elections administrator for the November 8, 2022 special election.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 17 is to discuss and act on a resolution appointing members to the Board of Adjustment. We had asked to re-advertise for these vacancies to get and recruit additional applicants, and that was successful. But just to recap, the Board of Adjustment, more than any other city board or commission, to appear on that agenda for a variance, you must pay, I believe it's $200. Is that correct, Mr. Path, the applicant?
I'm not sure, sorry.
I believe $200.
That sounds right.
And then if you do not receive your variance from that board, then your only recourse is to appear before a state district judge, and which would usually involve an attorney and that expense. So it's very important appointment, and I would like to have the full council here in order for us to make this appointment. If you're agreeable to that, I'll hear a motion.
Well, how I know with one of the boards, it's not an urgent issue, but is it urgent to get this board filled?
The Board of Adjustment?
Yes.
The people that are currently serving, whose terms have expired, will continue to serve until you make new appointments. So they are still meeting and serving.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
So why are we waiting?
Well, I would like the full council, if possible, to make that appointment. It's a critical appointment.
Yeah, it is.
You're tabling it. You want to table it?
Yes, I'd like to table, and we can go ahead and appoint the Airport Advisory Board, or we can do them both at the next meeting.
Let me just say this.
Okay.
I think we're fully capable of making this appointment, so that's just my opinion.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, we will act on the appointment. Do you have the presentation, Ms. Ellis?
Yes, I do. The staff re-advertised, and we received 5 applications. Early this morning, we received a 6th application. Let me read the applicants that we've received. Carlton Cooper, Lydia Fitzgerald, David Hamilton, Jerry Hanning, Alec Putman, and William Sanders. If you all want to include Mr. Cooper, then if you all, I didn't have time since we got it so late, y'all have to decide that. If you all will write his name or decide what you want to do on that one, then we'll change it up just a little.
Do we have a policy about accepting late applications?
Yes, ma'am, normally we do not, but that is a council preference.
So his application came in on what, July the 22nd?
No, it came in this morning around almost 3 o'clock.
Oh, I read the email wrong.
Yeah, it was dated, and I had talked to him sometime before. Anybody that calls, we always tell them, give them a deadline. The biggest reason for that is so that when we're preparing ballots, memos, and putting the agenda packet, that it's included in the information. But I think first of all, you all decide whether or not you want to include that application. If you do, then we need to change up the ballot here.
Any discussion on whether to include Mr. Cooper?
Well, is there any precedence in this? Janice, you've been here for a long time, so you have
The only thing I
information?
can tell you is on the regular advertisements, there is a deadline in the newspaper. And if I receive an application after that deadline that's been given in the newspaper, because we advertise for months, I do not accept them. We did not have a deadline in the newspaper. It was a verbal deadline from me.
We did not have a
No,
deadline
we
in
did
the
not have,
newspaper?
when this time, when we went out and re-advertised, we did not give a deadline because we did not know when we were going to make those appointments. It would depend on how many applications we got at what point. And so, go
Oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, and so whenever I got a phone call, whenever we knew when we were going to do them, it was, I believe Mr. Cooper's came in July 22nd, or I'm sorry, it was May, July 22nd. We got it today. So that when we knew when we were going to make the appointments, I set the deadline for the Monday, a week prior to the council meeting, just so that we can put everything together, the ballots, the memo, because we have a lot of items going into the packet.
So that was kind of like just an executive decision, a personal deadline. So
Yes.
technically, there was no deadline to miss
There was not one in the newspaper.
to the public.
To the public.
anybody. Okay,
Mhm.
so, okay.
I don't think it would be a problem if
Yeah.
it's in a deadline.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, so are we including or not including?
Do we need to vote on that or something?
That would be good.
I don't see a problem with it either, but I don't know what everybody else thinks.
All those in favor of including Mr. Cooper, please say aye. Opposed, say no.
Okay, so we're going to include him 3-2.
3-2.
Okay.
Shall we just make him number 6 on the list?
Yes, that would be great. If you all will write his name in.
Okay.
Okay. And then what you'll do is score the applicants. Instead of, what you'll do is like if you wanted Janice Ellis to be on this board, you would give her 6 points. So whoever you want to be on the board, you score highest and so forth.
Okay.
did you say that again? I'm sorry.
Okay. So like if you wanted an applicant on there and you're like, I really want her to be on the board, the top score is 6 points. So you're going to give her 6 points, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Ready?
Mr. Rob, and I'll be right back. Thank you. Okay, the next is the library board. We had one vacancy.
Airport Board.
I'm sorry. You all had appointed 2 pilots on at the last meeting. So this last vacancy is their civilian. The 2 applicants are Donna Bermia and Leandra Mahon. Both of these ladies are civilian applicants. So if you'll get whichever one you want to be your top choice, you will give her 2 points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I forgot to tell you all, if David Hamilton ends up being one of the 3 top applicants, we will have to have an alternate, but that's already figured in on the Board of Adjustment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot to sign her. She forgot to sign her paper in there.
That's okay.
You'll know.
Well, then,
Nomination.
okay, this one, somebody just gave me that one.
Oh, I gave you a blank one.
Okay.
I mean, I
Mayor didn't fill
didn't
it
put
out.
my name. I did
Thank
fill
you
it
so
out.
There you go.
Ghosted you.
A minute.
Here.
Thank you.
Budget.
Need a budget, I need more money.
Company car. You watch, I'll be rolling around them little Ford Prius.
Some of those that code enforcement has are good, are nice little pickups.
I ride around every once in a while.
Yeah. Saw your windows the other night.
Did you see them?
Yes, they're beautiful.
Aren't they nice? Really great. I'm real proud of them. We're gonna get the front porch done and the north side. That'll be the second phase.
It's always something when you live in an old home.
Yeah, always, always. Yep.
And sometimes it's not the stuff that shows.
I know. Well, I didn't tell you that we also got it rewired.
Yeah, we
And
did
we
that.
had the house leveled
Yeah, uh-huh.
again.
Yeah.
This was the 4th time we had the house leveled. Yeah.
Shifting sands.
All the time. Well, it really helped when they finished Church Street, we got a curb. So now all the water that runs to the south and the water that runs to the north, it used to all come jumping, there was no curb, so it would all go under my house.
Oh.
And I had to get a truck to pump all the water out. We were always having to do that. So when they put the curb and guttering and they put a lot of drains in, it just made it so much
Yes.
nicer. So
Yes.
it's a lot more stabilizing under the house. We're in the process of
Okay, y'all.
putting a truckload of dirt up on.
We're not quite finished. Two board members for sure, Lydia Fitzgerald and David Hamilton. And then there's a tie with Alec Putnam and Carlton Cooper. So one of those applicants need to be a regular board member and the other needs to be an alternate. So do you all want to rescore or do you all want to make a motion?
Can we just make a motion? Anybody have a problem with just making a motion?
What's the proper procedure?
We've done it both ways.
Well, I assume if we vote on it, and there was a tie to begin with, it'll be a tie again.
No, they both got the point system. That's what messes us, or not messes us up, but that makes it confusing. So both of them scored the same number of points.
Okay.
So one of them will be a full board member and one will be an alternate.
Oh, okay.
I make a motion to appoint Alex Putnam, sorry, as the member and Mr. Cooper as the alternate.
I second that.
Could you include in your motion to appoint Ms. Fitzgerald and David Hamilton?
I will, yes.
Thank you.
In addition to Ms.
Well-
Fitzgerald and Mr. Hamilton.
One question on that, Stephanie. If the motion that she's making, if in part fails, then the whole motion would fail, so shouldn't she do that
Well,
separate?
Yeah, and in fact, when I came up here, that's what I was going to say, and I didn't say that. If you wanted to do that in two different motions, first of all, approve Mr. Hamilton and Ms. Fitzgerald as regular board members, and then make a motion as to the preference on Ms. Putnam and Mr. Cooper.
Okay, you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for Alex Putnam to be the regular member and Mr. Carlton Cooper to be the alternate member.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no.
No.
Motion fails, 2-3. All right. Do I hear a motion? I think we should do the ones who have received the most votes first. Let's have a motion to appoint Lydia Fitzgerald and David Hamilton.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. All right.
Okay, we still need another motion.
I make the motion that we make Carlton Cooper the regular member, Alex Putnam the alternate.
A second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say no.
No.
4-1.
Okay, let me go get the,
All right. Discuss and appoint, item number 18, the Airport Advisory Board. Do we have that?
There she comes.
There she is.
Okay. Leandra Mahon received the most points, so if you could all make a motion to appoint her to the airport board.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to appoint Leandra Mahon.
I make the motion that we appoint Leandra Mahon to the Airport Advisory Board.
Second, please.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 19, receive presentation from the city manager, discuss and provide direction on the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget for the city of Paris. Mr. Path has worked, and staff have worked very, very hard on this budget.
All right. Mayor, City Council, I'm pleased to present to you tonight a summary of the memorandum I sent to you back on, I think, July 28th, and I'll get started on the slides here if I know which way I'm going. All right. Back on July 28th, you received a memorandum from me that outlined the proposed fiscal year 22-23 budget. As you all know, under the charter, it's my duty to prepare the budget and to present it to the city council, and city council's power and duty to review and adopt the budget. And so that's the role. That's what we're all trying to fulfill the next few weeks here. In that memorandum, as you will find 4 exhibits, A, B, C, and D, A being the proposed revenue for all line items for 22-23, Exhibit B being the proposed expenditure for 22-23, C being the itemization of positions, which is required in the charter to present that to the council, as well as D, long-term debt amortization schedules, again required in the charter to present to the council. As you will recall, as you saw in the memo, the charter lays out a number of items I'm required to present to you. So I tried to write my memo, even though it's a bit bulky, I tried to write the memo to clearly identify each of those items here. So you'll see along the top of these slides here a reference to charter sections as they are requirements to present to the council as part of the process. One of the most important aspects for any citizen, and I think council member, is what does this do to the tax rate, the property tax rate? That's where most of my questions get asked by citizens, is property taxes. So I will start there. The maintenance and operation M&O tax rate. Remember, this is the non-debt side of things. This is what we pay for salaries, insurance, fuel, chemicals. This is what we use to cover those things. Then you have a debt service tax rate, which is separate and apart from the M&O. The M&O tax rate is decreasing in the proposed budget, and while the debt service rate is increasing on account of the pension bond that we disapproved tonight going there. So looking back at the last several years, this actually is more than, this has been the case for more than 5 years now, but I wrote 5 here. The proposed budget tax rate will be the lowest in the last 5 years, actually probably the last 10 years. That is through a mixture of valuation increases as well as doing our job to try to cut expenses and try to keep things firm as much as possible. This tax rate, which is, as you'll see, is 44 cents, 34 cents in M&O, 9 cents, just shy of 10 for debt service. A total of 44 is a proposed tax rate. This is less than the 45, which is a current tax rate, about a penny less than that. A current rate. To the best of our knowledge and ability, this is in compliance with the Texas Property Tax Reform and Transparency Act of 2019. And again, the debt service tax rate is increasing because of the pension bond. And a key point I'd like to say tonight, which we are very proud of, is the city's M&O property tax rate budgeted. The tax levy is set to remain flat. This current fiscal year, we budgeted $8,030,000 in revenue for property tax for the M&O. We are budgeting the exact same number for next year, not an increase in the M&O. Again, debt is going up, but the M&O is staying the same. And I will discuss that more and the reasons why in the next few slides. Another key part under the charter is to discuss all operational funds. We have 64 separate funds. The vast majority of those are special purpose funds. There are things that have specific purposes for what we can use those for. We primarily focus our attention on the 4 operational funds, funds 1, 3, 10, and 45. 1 being general fund, 3 being the airport fund, which is the new fund as of this fiscal year, 10 being the water and sewer fund, and 45 being the sanitation fund, our trash service fund. I've also shown on this slide here the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act funding here. As you'll see here, as requirement in the charter, the general fund, water fund, airport fund, and sanitation fund are all balanced. To do this, we are looking to utilize some of the reserve for our general fund and airport fund. With that, for the reserve, again, we only utilize that for capital purchases. We have a healthy reserve for the general fund. Working with staff, doing good frugal expenditures, being careful what we spend the money on, and having good conservative budgeting the last several years. We typically always come in over on revenue and under on expense. That produces a net gain for the community there. And so my thought has always been, instead of just continuing to bank that, let's utilize that when necessary to help with significant goals like we have this year, being keeping the property tax flat, as well as a few I'll cover in a few moments here. So I'm looking to utilize $343,000 in the reserve to cover some known capital expenses. The airport fund, we're using $124,000 in reserve. This is actually through former CARES and ARPA funds. We have 2 massive TxDOT projects. I know I keep announcing them every single year. We're on TxDOT's timeline, and so we keep budgeting for it each year, hoping it'll be this year. Again, I'm hoping it'll be the coming fiscal year, so we have to still budget for that, so that when it does come, we're ready for that. The money you show in the reserve there, being spent from the reserve, is going to match those capital projects. About $2.75 million in grants from TxDOT. We have ARPA funds, $3 million coming our way, and I'll discuss the uses for that in a few slides. Water and sewer fund, $18.2 million in expense and revenue. We've balanced that. I will say that the recent chemical bids of $412,000 on top of our budget threw that into a major tailspin to try to get that reserved, trying to get that balanced. But we did our job, and we were able to get our expenses balanced back down to revenue. So we're not proposing a rate increase because of operational expenses because of that. We will have to probably look at one for the potential wastewater treatment plant bond supplement in a few weeks, but not because of operational expenses. And of course, sanitation fund, $1.25 million for the trash service there. Overall, the combined operational budget is $48 million in expense and $48 million in new revenue and reserve. The expense has increased by $1,069,768, which is a 2.26% increase from this current fiscal year. And overall budget consists of $64 million between special funds and $63 million in revenue. Our financial policy, I actually took this primarily from the council's retreat this year. And we're still working to finalize those details. The budget took precedence to try to get through this. But taking from the council's direction for the overall mission statement, I've taken this from that. The mission of the City of Paris is to serve with professionalism and integrity, promote a safe and prosperous community for all citizens, and provide efficient and effective services for an excellent quality of life. That is our overall mission for the budget. I think it's a very very concise and excellent mission financial policy for us. It is also about 3 lines shorter than last year's. So we definitely have concised that up quite a bit. The budget message, this is per City Charter, Article 5, Section 45, subpoint 1. There were a number of priorities that we focused the budget on. Again, priorities, that can be things that we want to see, but also things that are just pressing, things that we don't have much control over, that we have to just attack, things that are very significant, we have to work around. So some of these things are things that as a team here, council staff, that we want to see. And again, some of these things are things that we have to just respond to because of the economy. Number 1 was City Council budget priorities. I'll discuss that in the next slide. Next was retirement program. We discussed that earlier today, and I'll discuss it again in a few moments. Employee pay, rising costs, capital projects and purchases, some new positions, maintaining operational services, and of course, SB2. The first priority that you saw in the memorandum, our top priority, is a City Council budget priorities. Back on April 7th of this year, City Council met for a budget workshop, and from that, you developed a list of priorities as a group. Then you went about tallying those in the order of your preference as a body through consensus. The table here shows the priority order, 1 through 15, we have addressed all 15 items in the budget to the best of our abilities, 1 being 5 and 5 program support, 2 being housing and development in general, 3 clean out ditches every winter, 4 grow commercial and residential development, 5 implementation of the downtown tool plan, 6 downtown revitalization including neglected downtown buildings, 7 more money for demolitions, 8 downtown lighting, 9 beautification continued cleanup, 10 general residential commercial code enforcement, 11 is a 22-23 budget should include these strategic goals. 12 is retail recruitment, 13 is recruit employers, 14 is Grand Theater, and 15 the housing assessment study with PEDC. Now, a lot of these things are more policy driven, so there's not technically a budget item that I can point to. A lot of it is staff time, policies, like for instance the 5 and 5 program there. We've got that in motion. It's working very well. So we don't have necessarily a budget 5 and 5. We're doing this differently next year. The same is true for a few others here. Some do have specific budget items like the downtown lighting. We have money in the budget for a maintenance agreement for that. But otherwise, I tasked staff with reviewing each of these and identifying projects, programs, expenses, some way to address each of these. And so we've done the best we can to try to touch on each of these topics here. But of course, if a council member had a specific item in mind, please let us know. And so as you saw in the memorandum, we went through a lengthy series of goals for next year that we have set in the budget. This here is a summation of all of these. I've kind of grouped them by these categories here. Because so many of these things overlap each other, I didn't take the time to say, this is 5 and 5, this is also this is also housing. Much of these cover there's so many shared goals among those priorities that I didn't cover them all individually by the priority. But housing, of course, the 5 and 5 program is working very well. We will continue to push that with all force we can. We have budgeted a housing assessment study. We're working working with EDC as well as a third-party private donor to help fund that. We have budgeted our share of a housing assessment study for that. And we thankfully were awarded another 3 years for the home program. As some of you are aware, we just had a few houses opened with keys given to new homeowners here about a week or two ago. We had some photo shoots there for the mayor and mayor pro tem and assistant city manager. And so that is an excellent program. We received an award for that again, so we budgeted our match for that as well next year. Building and permitting, as was presented to the council a few months ago, we are continuing to our way to develop a construction manual, a how-to through our codes. As you look at our codes, we have codes here, 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 here. This document is meant to put it all into a flow form so that developers can take this and know how to get from A to Z through our process here. So we're continuing to put that together. We have some existing codes we want to revisit, example being the sidewalk code. As you council may recall from, I can't remember if it was this year or last year, city staff recommend that we put a pause on the sidewalk construction portion of the code. That caused a lot of confusion among developers, some consternation among developers. It also didn't make sense in a lot of situations. We'll be revisiting things like that to help try to find things in our codes that can be streamlined or improved for more development. We will be proposing to the council the 2021 building and fire codes. We're under 2015. That is now 7 years ago, and so it is time to upgrade our building and fire codes. A lot of things a lot of new developments have happened, new technology, new options for developers. We want to get back up to code with our own codes. We will be proposing that to the council's upcoming fiscal year. With that will come the Board of Appeals. We do not have one right now. Our codes would call for one, so we'd like to recommend to the council that we do a Board of Appeals. That will be an asset to developers. And of course, consistent and fair enforcement. That is our motto with our department. And as the city's council recalls, those who were here when they hired me, they said, Grayson, what we need from you most and foremost is to be consistent and fair in all code enforcement to the best of our ability. We're not perfect. We do the best we can. But we work very hard to be consistent and fair in our code enforcement, so we will continue that into next year. We've made a lot of great improvements to our department. We've added some key staff from Andrew Mack's position. We've added an assistant building official position, which has helped really expand our capabilities and response time for development. And we just recently hired a new building inspector. The position was vacant for about a year. The position has been filled recently, so that's a great improvement. We're continuing to develop our pre-development meetings. From 3 years ago to today, those have seen drastic changes. Very helpful meetings for developers. We cover tons of topics when you go through those meetings here, from working with fire codes, building codes, Atmos, Encore. We try to bring the whole kit and caboodle to the table. And those have seen great improvements of the last couple of years. We will continue to push those and improve those, taking input to make them even better. The budget also includes an upgrade from MyGov 4 to MyGov 5. The software is getting to the point where it's no longer supported. So this is a key software for building, for permitting, for fire, all those departments there to utilize for development. We'll be upgrading that. This is also, we recently pushed out a external access for developers to be able to go online and utilize an online portal to seek out your permits, to communicate with the staff. That is a convenience we want to add to developers. So this MyGov 5 is an upgrade. It's a much better suited software version for that process. Development-wise, we will continue our Chapter 380 program. This is for retail recruitment. We had 3 successful agreements this last year, 2 hotels, and one agreement was for 4 retail entities. And so we've had a lot of success with that. We will continue to push that hard into next year. We will continue our water line projects, as Ms. Hammond discussed earlier. We have money set aside in the ARPA funds to continue our water line expansion and redundancy project in our industrial parks. We have budgeted the necessary funds to partner with North Lamar ISD for the Collector Street. While not budgeted just yet, Forest Brook Estates is a very exciting project, a residential project on the southeast side of town. We've not budgeted for that just yet. It's still too premature to know numbers yet there, but we are very confident that we have the reserve in order to meet what we propose to that entity to help fund some development down there as part of our codes dictate. And of course, working with EDC for branding and marketing. That project is ongoing, so we'll continue that. Downtown, we will be revisiting our vacant building registration codes after having gone through a couple of years of very thorough trying to bring it to life and thorough enforcement. Mr. Mack has seen some lessons learned through that, so we'll be revisiting those codes to make them more efficient and more effective for the process. TxDOT should be presenting the 90-day stop sign study here pretty soon, so there will likely be some steps beyond that we'll have to be working through to help downtown revitalization, that process. The tool design group study review, again, this is not quite budgeted, but one of the things that I foresee us doing is once the TxDOT 90-day study stop sign comes out and we see the results there, that will likely require a revisiting of what was discussed several years ago. I foresee us bringing a firm in, whether it's Tool or someone else, as to be decided, and see what have we done so far, what was not done, from the things that were done, how has that changed the plan that we saw 5-6 years ago. Given TxDOT's involvement, the stop sign study, where does this take us going forward? So things like that I see us bringing a firm in to discuss that. Again, not quite budgeted at this point here, but I do not foresee that being a significant increase if we have to tap into some reserve for that. Again, a lot of discussions to be had on that, but I see that coming next year. Belford building, we have budgeted a significant amount of funds through ARPA to demolish that building. That is a much needed improvement for our community, and so we have set aside that funding for that. That would be a major improvement for the downtown. Farmers Market restroom, we have budgeted funds there to create a permanent restroom facility for our farmers market and the other activities in the area. Right now, I think they have a porta potty, so this would be a permanent structure for use down there, which would be a great asset. We've also budgeted funds for First Street. Lost my screen. First Street Southeast CDBG. We submitted a CDBG grant request for some work to be done on First Street. It's to turn it from a normal road into a walking experience, closing it off to car traffic and creating more of an environment, a meeting environment for there. So we budgeted money for that for our grant request, for our grant match. We've also increased our HPC facade grants, another downtown revitalization aspect here. We've added more funds there because we've had a lot of development downtown, and if we're going to continue to push the vacant building registration process, we want to help incentivize some development, some facade improvements downtown. So we've added some more money for facade grants. And we've also the Grand Theater. I proposed a phase 1, which is an architectural assessment. We need to know what is it going to take to remodel the Grand Theater. We own that building. The city owns that building. We lease it out to a nonprofit, but it's our facility. It's got shared walls. There's a lot that we need to do to that building there. So a few years ago, they did some abatement cleanup through about a third of the building. About another 2/3 still needs to be done. So we're bringing in an architect to come in and develop a scope of service for us that we can then see what's it going to cost to do the final 2/3 of cleanup for that building. It gives the nonprofit a target to pursue for donation requests. So I propose that our portion be here to fund the architectural assessment to help them get to that next step there. And lastly, on the council budget priorities, abatement and beautification. We have increased the code enforcement funding for housing demolition and lot mowing. We have a lengthy list of structures that need to be torn down in our community, a lot of dilapidated homes that are beyond repair. And unfortunately, we don't have enough money each year to tackle that full list because we're always adding to it as well. So I've added money to the budget to try to bring more houses down, as well as try to get more lots mowed to try to stay ahead of the lot mowing. We just passed to the council an ordinance for the deconstruction program. We will be vetting that process out, expanding it, getting all the policy written up behind that. So we'll be working on that in 22-23. Looking to have a trash off event. We've also budgeted some money for the new downtown plaza lighting, for a maintenance agreement for that. This is primarily for the square itself. This is for the trees and the part that we own. So we've budgeted about $10,000 for a maintenance agreement to maintain that program, maintain those lights there.
Grace.
Yes.
What is the trash off event?
Trash off, Rob, can you speak more to that? I know you've been.
It's going to be in April. We meet, I think, this week. Sometime it's on Monday or it's.
No, I said, what is it?
Why don't you come on up, Rob, and speak in the microphone?
I'm not extremely familiar with it, but it's where you get, maybe you can speak more, but you get a lot of different groups together. Volunteers come in and you pick different areas of the town and you just clean it up. You see how much trash you can collect. I believe you can compete with other cities, correct?
Well, it's in
You can compete
conjunction
within
with
city.
Texas Trash Off, and they award prizes, not prizes,
So just recognition.
recognition for what you achieve, like how many pounds of trash you haul away, and it can be a really fun, bring the community together with maybe competition between this high school's football team and this high school's football team. How much can you find? What's the most unusual trash item you find? And really helps our neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vine.
All right, and we also will be looking to revisit our landscape and tree ordinances. Again, beautification in mind with that, trying to touch up those codes to get them more up to snuff with other communities. We've also, we currently have a ditch cleanup program in the community. Part of our problem is lack of staffing. And as you all know, a lot of our staff this last year was spent on the back of a trash truck. And so ditch cleanup was not one of the priorities, unfortunately. Trash was. And so we're hoping that through some of the recent changes we've made through pay and through once-a-week services, that will get our crews back out in the field doing other jobs. And because we have as you recall, each month we bring to you a lengthy series of ditches we do clean up, but we hope to do more. And so we recognize that as a need. We've also added some funding for parks and code enforcement for mowing and maintenance funding. Again, go towards that service. If we can't quite get to a staff, we might be able to hire some services to come out and maintain ditches and mow ditches. So we've added some funding for that. And again, the key is we just need more manpower. So, but again, read my memo on those things. I just flew through those. I apologize. Today's is meant to be a summary. And but we do believe that we've touched on all the topics given to us. If there's anything specific that a councilor would like to see for any of those priorities, please let me know, and we'll see how we can wrap it in, add it in, do something different, and go from there. So.
Something that if this is the right time,
Sure.
Can I interrupt? You had initially had a public information officer.
I've got that coming up.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yep, got it coming up, yep. The next priority we had in the budget was the retirement program. Again, earlier tonight, you approved the ordinance for the pension, so I won't cover a lot of this deal here. First off, on TMRS, we were given a new rate. The rate dropped from 7.72% to 5.1%. It may not seem like a lot of money by looking at percentage-wise, but we look at the vast scale of our payroll. That's several $100,000 in savings right there in the dropping of the rate from TMRS. Then you add on top of that for the fire pension going from 14% down to 5.1%. That's some extreme savings that we're seeing in our M&O. In fact, that right there, those two items right there is what's making keeping the property tax flat possible. So that and some sales tax increase we've had through revenue there, but those are two, and I don't have a good dollar figure for tonight, but those are some significant savings to those two, the reduction in the rates there. So that's outstanding news for our community.
Can you explain to the council how the contribution rate is dropped by TMRS? How did we go from 7.72 to 5.1%?
Yes, from our understanding, if I get this all right, I'm not an actuary. Pensions, TMRS, fire pension, these things, they're all based off, it's an actuarial study. They look at how many lives are in the program between employee spouses, what's their life expectancy, what's their pay, what's the market going to produce, and so forth. So it's a long formula that they utilize to calculate what our rates will be in order to keep the retirement system going for decades and decades and decades. we had a massive pay increase last year due to the comparable pay study, and so that was a massive influx of funding that significantly changed the formula for our rates there. That having more money going in, some more revenue going in, allowed us to drop our rate from 7.72 down to 5.1. So that was, I think that's the primary reason we're seeing a massive drop right there. So.
Thank you. So it's a good thing.
It's a good thing,
It
yes.
saves us money.
Again, looking back at last year, our pay, the employees' pay as a whole was drastically lower than lower than our comparable communities. So moving up was very necessary in order to provide fair pay for our employees, try to keep employees and also maintain morale. So that had the unexpected benefit this year. I wasn't expecting this. So I had the great benefit this year of bringing our TMRS rates down. Along those same lines there, again, our greatest asset is our city employees. Without employees, there is no city operation. Since we are primarily a service-based entity, we don't produce commodities, we produce service. As you recall, last year, the City Council was very gracious to allow us to move to a comparable pay to that of our competition, not high, but no longer low. We're now even with the average of our competition. So making those changes there was outstanding. And I know the city staff are very appreciative of the City Council for making those changes last year. But with that, as you recall, the general employees, the non-civil service employees, we were able to make the change in 1 year. That was through a complex series of adjusting the schedules, adjusting the steps that employees were on. But unfortunately, police and fire, it's different rules that apply to that. So with that, we did a phase one in fiscal year 21-22 where we went 75% of the way to get to comparable. Because of financial constraints involved with civil service, we cannot do the full 100% except for police officers. We made an exception for them because of the national economy with police force. We needed to bring officers here and stop losing them. We had a lot of vacancies. We did manage to stop the bleeding on police officers. We managed to bring some officers from other departments and maintain officers. So that was a great success there. But with this, our plan was to do a phase 2 and phase 3 for fire and police pay, again, other than police officer. They got their 100% in the first year. With this, we were going to do 12.5% in fiscal year 22-23 and 12.5% in fiscal year 23-24. I am proposing this year to do all 25% in this fiscal year, just to get it done and accomplish this. With between the savings we've had in the retirement benefits, as well as our increase in revenue and sales tax, we have the funds necessary to get this done this year and get it behind us. And so, again, we have a very favorable council. We have a current council. We'll be having a council change next year, so I think it is advantageous to pursue this year and accomplish it, and that way the pay study has been successfully completed. So with that, all 25% has been budgeted in 22-23. As for all other employees, we budget a 2% COLA for all employees. Again, the key now is to maintain, to be in step with competition. Our competition is continuing to adjust their pay. We need to now keep in lockstep with that as best we can. We're not going to always match it. We're going to have some positions that are going to drop low, some go high. We'll do another pay study in a few years to kind of true it up again. But the goal here is to avoid those massive jumps every few years. We do a little bit of increase each year. We can keep up. So when we do a pay study, it's just minor adjustments, unlike we had to do last year, which was a 20-year plus catch-up. And of course, I like to always add, for those who watch this, I have not budgeted any pay increase for myself as city manager. All the employees will receive a COLA or the phase 2-3 increases there. Another priority that we have is rising costs. As you know, this is not, as I mentioned earlier, we have things that we prioritize, and then there are things that the economy prioritizes for us. As you know, the national economy has struggled since COVID-19, and since then, our economy has waned in the past few months. This impacts individuals, but also impacts the city as well. We also buy things in order to serve the community. The big one being fuel. As everyone knows, fuel prices have skyrocketed. They've been going down recently, but our fuel budgets have been blown for the budget this year. So I have significantly increased the fuel budgets across the board for all departments. Again, I'm hoping that we'll continue to see a trend downwards, but it is appropriate to increase that and not hope for that. As you also recall, our chemical bids went up drastically. We had to increase our budget from this year by $412,000. That was quite a bit unforeseen. We foresaw an increase. I originally put about $300,000 into the budget, thinking I'm overkilling it. I've significantly underkilled that one, unfortunately. So we put $412,000 in there. When we received that, I had to do a significant amount of cutting in order to make the budget balance to get that done. So the water and wastewater budgets are probably as trimmed as they have been in years, and so they've been very trimmed, but they're extra trimmed this year. And so after having trying to get this in there. So even with rising costs, we have worked hard to keep as many lines as we can flat in growth, and the budget has been adjusted as best as possible to account for rising costs of services. Capital projects and purchases, just to kind of name a few here. As I mentioned earlier, airport, we have a $2.75 million TxDOT project and a $300,000 taxiway project that's in the works. We have budgeted for our match, 10% match for airport. That would be a significant improvement to our airport. It is a major asset to our community. Ms. Hammond discussed that in an earlier item here. It may not be our primary door into our community, but it's definitely a door into our community that we need to maintain and keep up. So that this would be an excellent long-term maintenance project for our airport, as well as, again, assuming the TxDOT funds the whole project for the taxiway, this will open up more space for additional hangars to be built to help grow our hangar base at the airport. Right now, we're full. We don't have any space. Unless someone builds a very narrow hangar somewhere, we don't have any space available for additional hangars. That project will give us more taxiway space for that. Lamar County has approached us about a fuel farm partnership. We have struggled in the last couple of years with our fuel program through inconsistency, unavailability. It continues to plague our departments, all the departments, and so we were looking at doing our own fuel farm in the upcoming fiscal year. But the county, they've beat us to the punch. They are already in motion, with or without us, to develop a fuel farm on North Main as part of one of their major maintenance and operational facility improvements there. So they have approached us and said, hey, do you want to go in together? Makes sense. This should be a significant savings in fuel for our taxpayers, buying it in bulk, having it consistent and available. That should be good because we share the same taxpayers. Lamar County also taxes the citizens in Paris. So I think this would be a great asset to these citizens to going in together to have a fuel farm together to save our cost on fuel. Under the ARPA, we've done what we need to do to deobligate these funds. The federal program allowed us to identify all $6 million that we've received as lost revenue. That's a program. Anything less than $10 million, they say, it's less than 10 lost revenue. Make it easy in the cities. We appreciate that. It made it a lot easier for us. So with that, using these funds here, I have attempted to find long-term, impactful items to spend the money on. Not today's pothole stuff. I'm looking at things that will make an impact for 5, 10, 20 years from now. The water line extension project, the Belford, the fuel farm, a street sweeper lasts 10 to 15 years. Our current ones are 1997 and 2002. So a street sweeper. Some municipal pool improvements. Our pool needed a new skin and plastering 20 years ago. It's a 10-year life expectancy. We're now 20-plus years of life expectancy on the pool, so getting that thing done once and for all. Again, the airport, long-term investments here. Then, of course, police, fire, EMS, and public works equipment there. Again, I look for items that, again, not today's potholes, not today's issues, but long-term solutions to our operations and our community is what I'm trying to divert that money for, and things that impact our taxpayers directly. Some of these things are not very sexy, but again, when you want the service, when you want your streets cleaned, or so forth, you want to have a pool to go to, it needs to be available for that. Again, another capital purchase is interlocal agreement with North Lamar ISD. We budgeted our share of that program, and as well as continue to try to do some improvements in the utilities. So we have a filtration plant rehabilitation. We're going to be rehabbing cell number 1, I believe. We have about 8 cells, I think, for our water treatment. It's good to once in a while gut them and clean them out so we can continue to have a clean drinking water. New positions. Police department has 2 new positions that they're requesting. Animal control officer. Unfortunately, there's a high demand for this. Animals continue to multiply. We continue to try to encourage everyone to spay and neuter your pets. Unfortunately, it falls on deaf ears a lot of the time, and so we pick up the excess. And so there is a need for a new animal control officer. They are overrun in that department there. So having another extra professional hand will be a major improvement for our community. Again, with the police department, a community outreach officer. This would like to be a non-certified police position. We need a position that will be tasked with reaching out, identifying, managing, and coordinating and maintaining relationships with our community. Across the nation, there is a somewhat negative image toward police department. This position will be tasked with trying to improve that locally, trying to get out there with the youth, with individuals who feel that they're underserved by the department, whether it's ours or just nationally, and try to help build or mend bridges between the police department and our community. And lastly, I add in here, I originally budgeted for a public information officer, but due to some complications in the balancing process, I had to remove that position here. The big thing, trying to keep our M&O flat. This position would have been tasked with keeping the public informed, handling open records requests, social media interactions, reworking and updating the city website, preparing press releases and interacting with the media, educating the public to services we offer, and handling the ever-growing PEG funding we have. We have a significant amount of funding in the PEG program. This position would be best suited to start spending that money down and utilizing that funds there. No matter what we do, whether we get a PO in the future or not, we need to start looking to address the PEG funding. That's one of my next projects that I have on my list of working on.
What is the PEG funding?
It's public education and I want to say government. What that is under state statute, there is an additional I can't remember the exact percentage, but there's additional charge added to everyone's cable bill that's meant to go towards a PEG channel, a public information channel. The city of Paris never opted out of that years ago, so we've continued to accrue that funding. It has a very narrow focus on what it can be spent on. For instance, it cannot be spent on a PIO. You have to have a PEG channel to spend the money there. We would use the PIO to produce our own channel, to have public information available. I foresee interviews of council members. Did you know facts about the community? Here's the new information on the wastewater treatment plant project. There's so much we can do in order to try to inform our public of what's going on here. I did a quick little quote-unquote audit of other Facebook pages as an example of other communities, Denison, Sherman, Marshall, and so forth. There's just so much on their pages, this bam, there's so much stuff going on that they have there. Our page is quite lacking, and I own that. That's on me as city manager. We are to the point as a community that public information is a full-time job. Trying to inform the public of what's going on, what's happening, the good and the bad that's going on, how to find out about building permits, meet the public works director, all these kind of things. Michael's over there. There he is, right there, everyone. And so and he loves being pointed out. And meet our new chief of police. Those kind of things. I see interviews. I just see so much that can be gained to try to educate our public. This is what we are as a community. This is what we do as a community. This is your city and work and operation here. All that to say, I was very excited about a PIO. I had it in there originally, but I pulled it out for now in order to balance the budget to do this here. But I put it here for you to consider as an option if you wanted to add it to the budget to do that. It either requires cutting services in some places or changing the property tax, or even What I've also looked at as the fiscal year unfolds next year, if revenue continues to exceed what we expect and expenses come below what we expect, there could be room next year to fit it in mid-year next year if we see a sustainable forecast. Again, we try to be very conservative in our revenue projections, and we try to add a little bit to our expense side just in case unforeseen things happen along the way. The goal being, at the end of the year, we don't exceed our budget overall. We have enough revenue to cover everything, and we go from there. So, I'm talking very fast tonight. I apologize. I'm trying to keep you all moving through this process here. Lastly, again, maintain operational services. Again, we continue every year to adjust every line item to account for what reality is for services. We try to cut out as much waste as possible, but we also try to be realistic about things, about unforeseen items. You don't want a budget so lean and tight that there's no room to account for the unexpected things. A community the size of Paris, with all of the demands we get every single day for services, you need a little bit of room in there to be able to maneuver within. So, but we do try to be respectful and not have too much of that in order to try to find that right balance between taxes and too much taxes and too little taxes. But I do believe staff do an excellent job of trying to be mindful of their budgets each year. And lastly, SB2. I won't spend time going through this other than to say that, again, under SB2, we do have the requirement of maintaining a 3.5% or less growth increase for our M&O property taxes. That is a new restriction placed on us a few years ago. It's meant to, as the legislature would say, to keep us in check. Unfortunately, my costs are not also checked. I mean, when I go to buy things, whether it's chemicals for water and sewer, or bandages and medicines for EMS or whatever it is, those prices tend to go up. We need to be mindful of the M&O so that we need to have healthy increases in M&O year to year if needed in order to meet those rising costs. Again, thankfully this year with the savings in the TMRS and the pension as well as the sales tax, we do not need to raise our M&O this year, but I cannot promise you that next year. Again, costs continue to go up, fuel and so forth. We have to continue to provide the needs for our community. Property valuations, as part of the charter, we need to present on that. Valuations continue to go up. I show a table there with this. They are proposed to go up 9% from the Lamar County Appraisal District in 22-23. Again, our property tax rate is decreasing by 2% from this current year. Let's see here. Again, the proposed property tax rate is 44 cents in the proposed budget. Just kind of put that in perspective. If you take a value of a home of $100,000, it means it's $442 a year in property taxes to the city. That's the formula on the screen here to help you kind of calculate how much that's going to the city. I like to always throw this in here, not to make jabs at anyone else, but to help people put in perspective of where your property taxes are going. I do feel that cities get the unfair burden, the unfair quantity of concern on taxes, but only 22% of your taxes go to the city, your property taxes. Again, I'm not trying to put heat on other entities there, but we're only taking 22% of the property taxes. Your taxes go to support schools, the county, PJC, and then all the services we provide. And so 21-22, we are 22% of whether it's Chisholm, North Lamar, or Paris ISD districts' total tax rates. And again, we are keeping our property tax levy at $8,030,000. We're keeping it flat. Revenue. Some significant, again, Exhibit A covers the revenue breakdown. Some significant general fund revenues are the property tax, $8,030,000. Sales tax is $9 million. It's going up about $400,000 from this year. Again, we're continuing to see growth in our sales tax. Again, the more 380 agreements we sign, that can help, again, bolster that and bring that to life even more. More development is good for our community. Franchise fees is $3.2 million. City sanitation is $200,000 going to the general fund. I've dropped that by $100,000. Again, we're trying to keep the rates from increasing in sanitation. But in order for me to increase the pay for the sanitation employees, I had to take money from the general fund, transfer it back into the sanitation fund. So I took out $100,000 in the transfer to put it back in the sanitation department. It helped fund the increases for pay to help try to retain employees in that department. The EMS and the county contribution to us for the EMS is $3.4 million. Water and sewer admin fee is $1.2 million. And then other significant revenues in the budget is airport fuel and rent is $900,000. Sewer fees is $9.2 million. Water fees is $8.3 million. And sanitation fees is $1.2 million. Again, that incorporates another $100,000 that was originally going to the general fund. Expenditure, small table. I'm sorry. You do have this in your memorandum. This is a breakdown of all operational departments' budgets. And even smaller, I'm sorry, but this is a list of all of our capital purchases for next year. Again, it's always hard to foresee this whenever you're looking at it on my computer screen, but you have this in your memorandum of all of our capital improvements. And I've discussed many of these tonight via the priorities and discussion earlier. Lastly, of course, we discussed tonight the priorities that we have in the budget. The proposed 22-23 budget is in line with SB 2. The next steps are for the council to have a budget workshop, if you so choose, to ask questions, and I provide answers as best I can, seeking additional information. Or we can proceed with scheduling a public hearing. That's also an option if you want to skip the workshop step of this process. We can have one-on-one meetings between myself and individual council members to answer your questions. And otherwise, staff are prepared to take this to the next step that you wish to see it, whether it be a budget workshop or not. As you all recall, I had Deneen Johnson reach out to you all here a week or two ago because we have a lot of other special meetings in August planned for other topics. So we gathered from you your availability list. We have gone ahead and tentatively planned this Thursday budget workshop. We have to advertise 72 hours in advance in order to hit those dates. That's when I was able to get a majority of the council available for that night. So unless you say otherwise, we will plan on this Thursday evening, I believe at 5:30, for a budget workshop. And we will go more in depth into department by department as we do each year. Otherwise, we can also proceed towards public hearings as well. So, but would you all like to have a budget workshop on Thursday?
I would.
Yep.
Fine with me.
Yes.
Very good. We will plan that for 5:30 on Thursday, yes.
Are we going to get a notebook with the budget in it, or are we just getting what we have on our laptops?
We can give to you in paper form if you like. Given how thick it is, I was waiting for requests to do that before we start printing out lots of paper. But if members here would like to have a hard copy, we will get it to you.
Yeah, this is hard for me to see the budget on here.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind,
I
I
can
would
do that.
appreciate to have.
Yeah, we will produce one. And would everyone like to have a hard copy of the budget?
I don't need one.
Okay.
I would.
Yep. Okay, well, we'll at least make two for sure. So if anyone else would like to have a hard copy, let me know. We'll have it ready for you by Thursday, if not earlier.
Thank you.
I flew through this. I apologize. I've lived and breathed the budget for the last 3 months, and so I'm trying to summarize a lot of what I know and learn in a short time period. So I apologize if it's a bunch of jarble. Budgets are very complex and complicated, and so if you have any questions or any thoughts or concerns, we can discuss it tonight. You can call me, email me, wait till Thursday. We can go from there, whichever you prefer. So.
I wish it Thursday.
Very good.
A great job.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Path? All right. Item number 20, consider and approve future events for city council and/or city staff pursuant to resolution number 2004-081. Does anyone have anything? I want a report, please, from the evaluation committee, but at least the September 5th city council meeting to include evaluation instruments and possible dates to evaluate our staff. Anything else? I'll hear a motion and a second for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, no favor?
Uh,